One eternity later.
And you thought we'd never finish. It's done. So I ended up having to completely refabricate the bracket. It started out life living on the inside down there, and that turned out to not be the best judgment call. It needed to be taller, and I needed more space underneath the antenna to accommodate for the connector and the coax. So I moved it to the outside and lifted it up a little bit. Didn't want to bore you with all of that, so it's just done. Ended up making sure that we're here now. So we have all this room for putting our lights on. Still have room here on the side for putting our side lights on. And stick around and I'll explain a little bit more about GMRS, why we chose it, and features on our radio. Welcome back to Thunder Bear 4-Wheel Drive, everybody. I'm Joe, and we're here to tell you some more cool stuff about GMRS. So what is GMRS and why am I always going on about it? Well, for starters, GMRS stands for General Mobile Radio Service. Why am I always going on about it? Well, it has basically replaced CB as the communication standard for off-road, four-wheel drive type peoples and whatnot. Why do I think that you should get a GMRS radio? Well, here are 6 reasons why I think that's important. Number 1, power. More power equals more FARs. GMRS radios are allowed to broadcast up to 50 watts of power. The legal limit for CBs is 4 watts. So GMRS radios exceed CBs by up to 46 watts. That's kind of big. So more power basically means broadcasting further distances. Some manufacturers claim that GMRS radios are capable with line of sight of broadcasting up to 75 miles. I personally have spoken with a person at 25 miles. So that's a pretty good distance, and it's a third of their claimed distance. When I spoke with the person, the sound was great. And I think if that person had been farther away, it would not have changed. I would have had line of sight to that person for at least another 10 to 15 miles away. So who knows? Number 2, repeater channels. GMRS radios can utilize repeater channels. CBs cannot. CBs speak in a mode called simplex, radio to radio. GMRS radios can speak simplex, radio to radio, as well as utilize repeaters to bounce a signal off a repeater down to another GMRS radio. Repeaters allow communication over greater distance, especially where line of sight cannot be achieved. So basically, a repeater can effectively double the range of a given transmission. Repeaters are ideal in situations where you have tons of obstacles like buildings or terrain, mountains, hills, things of that nature. Number 3, FRS radios and GMRS radios are compatible. FRS stands for Family Radio Service. So you know those blister pack radios that you get at a sporting goods store and you're just like, hey, we're going camping, so let's get these walkie-talkie? That's what those probably are. They do make handheld GMRS radios, but likely the blister pack ones are typically the FRS. They both use the same radio frequencies, so you can speak between the two, and that's a bonus that CB doesn't remotely come close to being able to do. The interoperability is a great feature in and of itself. Some four-wheel drive enthusiasts will take and put a pair or a single FRS radio in their vehicle along with their mounted mobile radio, and that way you go on a trail run or whatever and you need a spotter or someone to go rig a winch line, you can hand it to that person, they can go out, they can stay in constant contact with you while they're doing their thing and you don't necessarily see them or whatever, but you have clear, good communications and you're not screaming back and forth at each other. FRS radios have a maximum limit of 2 watts, so they don't have near the range that a GMRS radio will have, but the fact that they are interoperable, and if you're in a trail run and things are packed fairly tight together, you're going to be able to talk to the person if they've got a handheld. There are some manufacturers that do make handheld GMRS radios. A lot of those radios run at anywhere from 5 to 5.5 watts, so that's pretty good. Number 4, No cellular service, no problem. GMRS radios can talk simplex, so radio to radio. That's kind of the whole point. So if you're in a place where there is no cellular service, which is very likely if you're going to be in some remote location to go off-roading, then that's your sole form of communication. So another big advantage of having GMRS radios just in general is what happens if a cellular network goes down. World's kind of a crazy place right now. We don't know what's going to happen. So it would be nice to have communications. Preppers like GMRS radios a great deal because you can put up ad hoc networks with repeaters. They have good range, so you can basically stay in touch with people in your general area. Number 5, GMRS radios are compact and versatile, making them easy to install. So the average CB radio is quite large. They are 8 inches wide, 10 inches deep, and about 3 inches tall. That's kind of your general size for your bigger professional type CB radios that truck drivers and whatnot would use. They do make smaller ones, but they're kind of not as good, obviously. GMRS radios are much, much smaller in their footprint. They can range from 4 to 7.5 inches wide, anywhere from 3 1/4 to 5.5 inches deep, and from 0.85 to 1.6 inches tall. So all in all, they're average, quite small. Some GMRS radios keep all of their controls on the handset. So there's a display, there's a microphone, there's a speaker, there's your channel buttons, there's a number pad. So you can do everything you need to with your radio from the handset itself. And the radio can be installed under the seat, in a console, in a glove box, under the dash, just somewhere out of sight where it's much more convenient to put it other than trying to find a place to put it. So if you have a Jeep or a Bronco or any modern SUV or a UTV, you'll know that you're not going to be putting a CB in there. The options for mounting a GMRS radio are much, much greater. It's way better. Compact radios also can work with four-wheelers. I've seen them on ATVs. So, number 6, superior sound quality. There are some massive differences between CB and GMRS radios. CB radios run in the 27 megahertz range, 4 watts on AM. GMRS radios run at the 462 to 467 megahertz range, up to 50 watts, and they're FM. So the differences between these two inherently gives the nod to FM. It just basically has less static and higher quality sound. So that alone is another big reason. And if you've ever talked on a CB and you've talked on GMRS, well, then you'll know the difference. And if you've not, then, well, get a GMRS radio and find out, and then you'll know. I also said I would talk about some of the features that I have on my MXT500 that I bought, and these are some of the reasons why I bought it. So it is a full 50 watt radio. It's the first full 50 watt radio that Midland makes. There are probably a handful of other manufacturers that make 50 watt radios, but they're not super common yet. A lot of them have wattages that are 15, 25, 30, 40, and now 50 is the cap. So a lot more manufacturers are trying to build radios in that size. So this also has a USB-C fast charger on it that's up to 36 watts. So that's like stupid blazing fast. That's good. It is water and dust resistant. It's IP66 rated. So I don't ever plan on letting it get that nasty. But if it was, I would know that it would survive. It can also do split tones for repeaters. So that's not something that's super common, but there are people who do have repeaters where you have to have a tone to be able to get into it and then a tone to be able to listen from it. So having those split tones allows for that. The radio has a feature called channel scan. So I can pick my normal channel that I'm always going to be on, and then I can hit scan. It'll scan through all the channels until someone keys up, break, squelch, and then I can hear them talking. Mine has the NOAA weather stations, all 10 of them, and those stations can be scanned as well. So instead of trying to dial through each one, you just hit weather, hit scan, and then it goes to the first one that it picks up. And it usually is a pretty decent audio quality. I think if it finds more than one, it compares the two to see which one has the best one. And whenever I've done a select to try and get it to do it again, it always comes back to the 1. Also, it has the capability of operating in narrow and wideband mode for audio purposes. So most GMRS radios sound better in wideband. And if you're talking wideband to wideband, sounds good. If you're talking narrowband to wideband, you sound very quiet to the person on the side with the wideband radio. So being able to turn that on and off or toggle it either way is very, very handy. And so those are the reasons and the features as to why I bought my MXT500. Another big reason, I guess you could say, is it's a very simple radio. There are some other brands like the Wouxing KG1000, which is like a rocket ship kind of radio. It does all sorts of really, really cool stuff. It's not necessarily for a beginner or an average type user. The Midland is very intuitive, very user-friendly, and it's not super difficult to operate. All the controls are where I need them. It also has a capability of being programmed. So on their website, they give you the download to get the tool that you can program with it. You use a USB-C to USB cable to talk to it. And then you can configure all your channels and then upload it in one shot and it'll write it to the radio. And that also was very intuitive. It was not very difficult to use. So in the computer age, radios, technology come together. Life is beautiful, all that good stuff. So I want to say thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it, more than you know. Please don't forget to subscribe. Please smash the like button. That is huge for the algorithm. And don't forget to turn on notifications. And we will catch you in the next video. And up over here are some links to some other videos. Please, if you feel like it, click on some of them, watch them. I need as many views as I can get right now. Have a good one. We'll catch you later.